Praise. Today I will praise. I will praise the sun for showering his light on this darkened vessel. I will praise its shine. Praise the way it wraps my skin in ultraviolet ultimatums demanding to be seen. I will lift my hands in adoration of how something so bright could be so heavy. I will praise the ground that did not make feast of these bones. Praise the casket that did not become a shelter for flesh. Praise the bullets that called in sick to work. Praise the trigger that went on vacation. Praise the chalk that did not outline a body today. Praise the body for still being a body and not a headstone. Praise the body for being a body and not a police report. Praise the body for being a body and not a memory no one wants to forget. And praise the memories. Praise the laughs and smiles you thought had been evicted from your jawline. Praise the eyes for seeing and still believing, being blinded from faith but never losing their vision. And praise the visions. Praise the prophets who don't profit off of those visions. Praise the heart for housing this living room of emotions. Praise the trophy that is my name. Praise the gift that is my name. Praise the name that is my name, which no one can plagiarize or gentrify. Praise the praise. How the heart sings like a choir. The harmony in your tongue lifts to a song of adoration. Praise yourself for being able to praise, for waking up when you had every reason not to.
Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, thebrownssugarcafe.blog, and if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it.
Praise. Today I will praise. I will praise the sun for showering his light on this darkened vessel. I will praise its shine. Praise the way it wraps my skin in ultraviolet ultimatums demanding to be seen. I will lift my hands in adoration of how something so bright could be so heavy. I will praise the ground that did not make feast of these bones. Praise the casket that did not become a shelter for flesh. Praise the bullets that called in sick to work. Praise the trigger that went on vacation. Praise the chalk that did not outline a body today. Praise the body for still being a body and not a headstone. Praise the body for being a body and not a police report. Praise the body for being a body and not a memory no one wants to forget. And praise the memories. Praise the laughs and smiles you thought had been evicted from your jawline. Praise the eyes for seeing and still believing, being blinded from faith but never losing their vision. And praise the visions. Praise the prophets who don't profit off of those visions. Praise the heart for housing this living room of emotions. Praise the trophy that is my name. Praise the gift that is my name. Praise the name that is my name, which no one can plagiarize or gentrify. Praise the praise. How the heart sings like a choir. The harmony in your tongue lifts to a song of adoration. Praise yourself for being able to praise, for waking up when you had every reason not to.
Man, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, world? How everybody doing? My name is Angelo Jeter, poet, spoken word artist, and poet laureate emeritus of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Man, it's a pleasure to be here with you today, man.
Hey, thank you for joining the podcast. I really appreciate that. This opening piece. Could you touch on that? What was the inspiration behind that piece?
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking. So I'm sorry, I don't know if I did something, my bad. But yes, I wrote that piece back like in 2019, 2020, and part of my story is that I'm widowed. So my late wife passed away in 2017, and so at that point it was almost 3 years. And I just remember being in a moment of like reflection and having sadness, but also I was really like the thing that kept hitting in my mind is like, yeah, but you're going through this, but it's still like something to be praised. Like you still should celebrate something. You're alive today. You get to do this, and you get to have your family around you, and all these things, right? And so I always like had this other side of things, even when I'm going through like difficult moments. I've always had that, and so this poem was kind of like birthed out of that, and it's like the larger implication of dealing with grief, but also knowing that people pass away in different, or things happen in different ways, right? And so it's the bigger implication of when someone dies, even if it's natural causes. There's another layer to that where it could be something different. It could be from a gunshot, or it could be from a police officer, or whatever it could be. And so that was kind of like what inspired that whole thing, man. And so yes, that's a piece that I love, but people have really taken to it as well. So I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah, man, that poem was loaded with a lot of things, man. Like the whole time you were reading it, it took me to these different scenarios, and it's like I love the way like you go from one thing to the next. It's like you think you have the poem figured out, but then here you come with something else.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Thank you, man.
So this is from your debut book.
It is. From More
Okay.
God Than Dead. That's the name of the book. Yeah.
Okay. And what has your writing experience been like since you published that book? Because that was back in 2000 and was it 19?
So I wrote the poem around there, 2019, 2020, but the book came out in 2022. But man, like I'll speak specifically to that poem. I know you kind of asked about the book, but that poem did way more than what I expected it to do. In terms of like it traveled quite a bit. So like shortly after, I had maybe written it for maybe it had been 6 months or so, but I got a fellowship from the Academy of American Poets, which is like one of the top poetry organizations in America.
Yeah.
And so one thing they did was, if you got the fellowship, they also reached out to you to have like poems featured on the website. And so they have this series called Poem a Day, where you can register for it, and then literally every day they'll send like a poem to your inbox. It's curated by different poets. And so they asked for me to submit a poem. They actually asked for a different poem for me to submit for Poem a Day. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was honored by the ask. And I was like, yeah, but I think I really want to do this particular one, And honestly, I didn't really think it was the best poem. Like, I thought it was cool. I thought it was,
That's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. But, I didn't think I wouldn't have told anyone this is my best poem. I would have been like, okay, it's cool. But it still spoke to me. Something said, this is the one that I need to submit right now. And it just so happened to really fall around when everything happened with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and we're, in COVID and all those things. And so the poem traveled, really, really crazy. I won't say it went viral, because I don't, poetry viral, I guess, right? Like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
started like sharing it and things like that. And then it reached to like different music composers. And so I have like a choral background. I grew up singing in the church and everything, and did quite chorus in high school and college. And so it reached a couple choral directors, and they reached out to me about turning that poem into like a music piece. And so now two groups have now done that. So that my poem Praise has now been turned and set to music from a group in Boston called the Seraphim Singers, and then another group, two composers that work together. Ken Medema and Kathy Shambly are putting it together, and we're releasing that one in November. So it's just kind of dope to me that, like, again, a poem I didn't really think would, really the one per se. And I still don't think it is. I think it's a great poem, but, I didn't think it was the one that was going to be the one to do that. But I think it's just amazing how certain stuff just sticks to people, and particularly how, like, like I come from a music background, and people, you wouldn't know that necessarily, right? Like if you didn't know me personally, and these people had no idea of that, and then they set it to music, and to choral music specifically, when I used to sing choral music. So it's just, to me, like a really like serendipitous kind of moment, you know what I mean, for that to happen. Yeah.
That's, man, very rare have I heard somebody say that they like a poet, that like a poet, or maybe a songwriter or artist, anybody who creates anything, that's done something that they thought was the one, and then everybody felt the same way. It's always like something that, like, it's cool, but like, this is what y'all like?
Yeah,
Okay, well.
right. You don't want to read this one over here.
Right.
This is like this one over here though. But
Yeah.
but
It's crazy.
yeah, I think it speaks to the power of words, right, and how like
Yeah.
different things can hit people different ways, and so I'm honored by that, I'm blessed by that, regardless of if I think it's my best work, and I always look at it like I still have yet to write my best poem. I feel like it should always be like that.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I'm just like, oh, maybe it's other ones that'll gravitate, but it's just great when people kind of latch on to things and it's unexpected. So I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, man. Congratulations
Yeah, thank
too.
you, man.
That's
Thank you,
dope.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, man.
Um,
I'm excited about
how
it.
did you Yeah, man, how did you get started with poetry?
Yeah, man. So I grew up. I would say it started with music first. So I mentioned I grew up, and it's funny. I was just watching the clip earlier, and Marcus Amick, when you had him on here, he said kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. I was like, that's really my answer too. But really, I started singing. So my mom was a minister of music in the church. Sister sang opera, or still does, sings opera. And brother sing R&B, played drums as a kid. So I come from a musical family. So music was just always a part of it, and I used to write songs. And so started like R&B songs, and then I found hip hop as well, and so I started rapping and write rap songs. So I feel like I was always a poet from the beginning, but I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Didn't know that until middle school. I had I was steadily making. This is like back in the days when you could get like a boom box and you put a cassette tape in the boom box and you record yourself making songs. I used to do all
Yep.
that. I used to do that all the time. Like I had a mixtape before mixtapes was a thing. Um, of crazy. And just me just beating on like a table and singing. It's
Yep.
I wish I could find those tapes, man. But yeah, so then in middle school I had a teacher that really explained and presented poetry to us, and I just remember feeling like, oh, this is kind of what I've been doing, but it also just feels like a freeing thing. As a kid, like
Yeah.
you have a lot of adults that are telling you what to do and how to think and how to act and what to believe. But when it came to that moment when it was just like, hey, just write what you feel, and it was like it was just me and the paper. That was it, and then nobody could tell me anything about it, and that just felt very freeing to me. And so pretty much that was the spark that started me in my journey to writing. I was a closet poet for a long time where I didn't necessarily like read aloud. But then in college, I found spoken word poetry, and that's I had found it before, but in terms of like me finding it as a poet, it's when I really like, oh yeah, okay, I like this, and I really consider myself an artist at that point.
Yeah, I'm still finding myself as a spoken word poet. I gotten into it, man.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool. I
dope.
think when I see artists like yourself and other people, the way you all just put the expression into it, I never forget. Because I've seen a couple of your spoken word pieces, but it was one that you did during the Soda City Poetry Festival. I think it was during the open mic session.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Man, I was like, yep, yep. See, I need to be in these type of environments to
Yeah,
get that little push, man.
I appreciate that, man. I had forgotten about that. That's great. See, again,
Yeah.
things that you do, you don't
See?
even realize how it hits people. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Uh,
Spoken word is a beautiful poetry in general, but I just love spoken word and what it can do because I feel like it just bends so many ways and can adjust it, and I think that's what made it attractive for me. And as a and as a lyricist, as a rapper slash lyricist at the time, and I still can, I can still write some bars from time to time, but I was really in it at that point, and it just felt like a natural progression.
yeah.
It just felt like, oh yeah, this makes sense, and so it was something that just kind of I latched onto very easily.
Yeah, man, did you used to watch Def Poetry Jam?
Yeah, I did. I
Ah,
did. Love
man,
that, man. Yeah,
me too. I tell you,
yeah.
boy.
Great show, man.
Good times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great. That was an amazing time when you think about it. Like all those people, and who now going on, like some of them have performed on Broadway. Those poets, they won, accolades and prizes and things like that, publishing books and all that kind of stuff, traveling the world, just doing that, man. It's incredible to see. Yeah,
Yeah, and you have a high honor in poetry as being poet laureate. A lot of people aren't familiar with that role
sure.
and the purpose of that role in the community. Um, could you go into that a little bit and kind of explain what a poet laureate is and your tenure and
Sure.
any information that you have about your experience?
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. I'm technically poet laureate emeritus now. Like, so my time is up. But what a poet laureate is essentially, every state, well, most states have a state poet laureate.
Yeah.
Your state or your city or your county is an official poet of that city, and so their job is to promote literacy and writing and poetry throughout the community. And every city kind of writes it up differently, but essentially that's the person you want to look to when it comes to any major initiatives when it comes to poetry in the schools, doing like workshops and residencies. I created a poetry festival in Rock Hill. Everybody doesn't necessarily do that, but things like that are like really pushing it forward and kind of exposing it to more people. That's what a poet laureate does, and I feel like also beyond just the poetry piece of it, I feel like you are a champion for the arts community. I feel like
Mm,
as there's no like art laureate or no equivalent to like a visual artist, the official visual artist of the city, right? But there is a
yeah.
poet laureate, and so I feel for me, all those other art forms influence my writing and influence me as an artist, and so I feel as though I'm the bridge and the connection point to be the champion for all those things. When things happen in the community or we need to come together as well. So that's how I look at the position is like it's a high honor. It's a responsibility too. It's a high honor and responsibility to do. My term was the way Rock Hill has it written is you get 2 guaranteed years, so a 2-year term, and then you get 2 additional 1-year terms.
Mm,
If everybody agrees, if you still want to be poet laureate and the city say, yeah, keep going, you get 2 more years. I actually did 5.5 years though, because at a certain point they wanted me to stay on, longer, and which I'm thankful for that. And so I did it like an extra year and a half, and I said, I think now it's time for somebody, to usher it out and
yeah.
somebody else come in and take everything and do their thing with it. So yeah, that's how my experience was.
Man, how so after you
Yeah,
just decided to, say, hey, it's time. What was that like, man? Was like I'm pretty sure it was bittersweet. Like what were the
yeah,
type of emotions you went through when you made that decision?
yeah, man. What's funny about it is when I first said it, I don't think people thought I was serious. 'Cause I said it like a year before. I said, yeah, so probably be because this would have
Yeah.
been at the end of that kind of cycle, I guess. So I'm like, I just think after that I'll just be done. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And so when I said it, even though I really meant it at that moment, I don't think it really hit me until we started preparing, for the next person, like applications and stuff like that. I'm like, oh man,
Mhm.
it was very bittersweet because for the past 5.5 years, that's been who I am. It's my identity.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful thing, for sure to be able to, and I hope I have, and people say I have, established a pretty good precedent for someone to follow, and a blueprint and an example of what to do. Which I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to see how the next person she does that and how she kind of steps in the role. But also is like, man, like how do I? Part of me was like, so who am I now? Because
Yeah.
again, like the past 5 years has been a big part of my life. My fiance and I were joking that she only we met in 2020, so I was poet laureate like 6 months at that point, and she's like, I only know you as a poet laureate. I don't know who you are no more. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when it's something that's just a part of who you are, it's definitely bittersweet. But again, I just enjoyed my time so much, and just thankful for the city for having me and the things I was able to do and accomplish. I feel great, so that's how I look at it. It's always trying to like lay the foundation and the legacy for people to come for me.
One of the things you did during your tenure is you advocated for a youth poet laureate.
Yes, yeah,
Um that that was pretty dope.
yeah. Thank you.
What was the inspiration behind that and what was that process like?
Yeah, man. So for me, I mentioned that I started writing in middle school, and I always would have feel like I would have benefited from having a youth poet laureate as a young person that was writing, and
Yeah.
I just really believe in youth being exposed to writing and poetry as early as possible, as a mechanism to cope and just express themselves, right? And so, like, man, I would have loved that, and I saw that there was other cities, like in North Carolina and other places that were having this, and I've heard of the youth poet laureate program for a while. And so I'm like, this is something I really think Rock Hill would benefit from, is having a young person that is kind of like leading the charge. They're the official youth poet of the city. So whatever programs they want to create, it's really indicative of the youth voice, not adults telling you the youth what they think should happen, but it's the youth really leading it.
Yeah.
That's important. And so yeah, so when I got the fellowship from the Academy of American Poets, like I mentioned, I used some of that money to start the Youth Poet Laureate program. And so there's a national Youth Poet Laureate program. So you are like a partner of that. And so we had to submit an application to officially start the program. But they do a great job of like walking you through it, from creating a logo, from the timelines, from giving you the guidelines of how to choose somebody, and the blueprint and stuff. And so I worked with York County Library here as the official sponsor of the Youth Poet Laureate program. And so we just really worked well together of like creating some initiatives around that and everything. So I'm really proud of that. And we were the first city in the state of South Carolina to have a youth poet
Yeah.
laureate. So that was also something I'm really proud of, that we were able to start. And there's a couple other ones now, or at least in the process. I know Greenville has one. I think Columbia is trying to start one as well. So I'm really excited to see what comes from that.
Man, when I tell you, like, the inspiration that we can get from and the things that we can learn from youth. I've been to
Yeah,
some youth poetry slams and
yeah,
different things when they were reading their poems, and I'm just like, man, I don't, I know I wasn't writing anything that deep at that
right,
age.
exactly,
They, I don't know if it's because of the internet,
right,
they're just
right,
having more experiences than we had. But
yeah,
man, I'm just the wealth of knowledge that they have, and I think that it's good to have somebody to advocate for them, because a lot of times people discredit young people
yeah,
because of age. Let's just
yeah,
call it what it is. And
absolutely,
I think we can learn stuff from anybody, man, especially people. When you think, one of my friends said something that really stuck out. He was like, his son and the kids around his age, like, what's going on now is theirs, and we're just visitors.
mm,
I was like, man, you know what? You got a
I
good
love that.
point.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true,
So
man.
you got to be willing to listen to them.
Yeah, you got to, man. It's important. It's important. Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I've been to a lot of youth slams as well, and just like the heart and the passion and the authenticity of young writers. That's what I really appreciate more than anything. Like, of course, they're talented and they're skillful, but you just feel it's genuine and it's authentic, and they're not doing it for accolades, and they're not doing it to win the competition even necessarily. They're doing it because this is just really their outlet, and they feel like poetry really can save them, and it can, and it does, And so I love that, and the youth writers I've been blessed to work with that have been youth poet laureates are light years above what I was writing, how I was writing at that age, And I'm just like, I don't understand how y'all are this incredible, and so I really look forward to their growth, and hopefully they keep at it, and they're going to be award-winning Pulitzer Prize-winning poets if they keep at it at this rate. Like, it's incredible to see, man. It's a beautiful thing to see, for sure.
Yeah, you
Yeah, man.
would think this day and age with like digital, everything's digital,
Yeah,
social media and all that, they would be distracted and not really into poetry. I love to
yeah,
see poetry still going, especially like in young people, writing
yeah,
still going, reading books still being a popular thing
yeah.
amongst young people. Like, all of that is important. I think it's
Absolutely.
in, like, writing has always been my expression, my the way I express myself, the way I deal with things.
Yeah,
And I think that you know what? I don't even know. Like, I've been doing that since I was young, and I wouldn't call it journaling, but I guess you could, because it wasn't like structured where I had like
yeah,
a special book that I wrote stuff in. It was whatever I could find,
yeah,
a piece of paper.
yeah,
It might be, back in the day when we had classes, we had certain notebooks for certain classes. man, you might see a poem or just something I was thinking in like a science notebook,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm just, as I got older, I was like, I guess I was journaling. I just didn't have any structure to it. But if it wasn't for me getting my thoughts out on paper, it's like I don't know, where I would have been because, we
Yeah.
deal with a lot, you know,
For sure.
through life.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own outlet. And I think that writing is a good tool for anybody. I always tell people, because we were talking about George Floyd earlier,
Yeah.
like when that whole thing happened, man, I was in like a place I'd never been before.
Yeah.
Because we see violence and
Right.
stuff like that all the time, and
Yeah.
but that time was different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it had to do with the pandemic, or just me being tired of seeing it. So I had like
Yeah.
a range of emotions, and
Oh, for sure.
I didn't know how to explain how I felt.
Yeah.
And I prayed about it, and I just kept hearing right. And so I wrote, and some of them poems I probably never share, but
Yeah.
um,
Excellent. Yeah.
it helped me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things about you is you write poems about social justice, race, character, and manhood. Of those things, like how is that become an important part of your poetry and writing journey?
Yeah, man. So for me, and everything you said was beautiful. By the way, I totally agree with everything you said about like writing and using it as a healing mechanism, and coping mechanism, right?
Yeah,
And I think for me, I think with writing, that's what it started for me. It was just getting those thoughts out. And my first poems were very much because I kind of like started in the spoken word uh, genre, like around the time where there was a lot of very black poems and a lot of very activist kind of sounding poems. So I
yeah,
think I was very much doing that, like social commentary kind of stuff. And that's just who I am too. Like I was very in tune with what's going on in the world. But I realized at a certain point, like, I did all these poems and I remember someone saying one time, but I feel like I don't know you in your work. Like I know maybe what you think about other things. I don't know things
mm,
about you, and that just kind of like started me a little like that makes sense. That I haven't really
yeah,
done at that point, personal poems that's saying how I have existed in these spaces or whatever. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, I need to do that, and I need to redefine how we think about and talk about manhood and character and grief and all of those things. Because we always look at it in a monolithic way, or it only looks like a certain thing, but really, manhood is all spectrums, right? And so, and character is all spectrums, and so I like to say, like my work is really redefining how we look at all that from a manhood lens, in the sense of like a man being vulnerable enough to talk about love, a man being vulnerable enough to talk about losing someone, right? Being vulnerable enough to celebrate women or to talk about struggles or depression or what have you. Like I think that's how we have to really reshape and redefine who we are in this time, And so that's what it is for me, man. I think it's just about redefinition and retooling how we look at and think about certain things, and it's providing a new perspective. And so that's kind of been my driving force, and I feel like, especially when I, experienced that loss that I mentioned earlier, and I wrote "More God Than Dead." I think it was, bringing attention to something that we don't necessarily always hear about or talk about in a regular conversation. You don't hear people talk about
yeah.
grief and how to navigate it, right? But it's a natural part of life, right? And so we have to really have those conversations. And so I use my work as a way to broach those conversations too.
You said something that made me just think about like the stuff that I share. I don't think I try to get into it a little more, but like personal poems,
Mm-hmm.
uh, being more intentional about that. I never thought about it like that. Like
Yeah,
people can read your poems and think like we see what you stand on, whatever, but it doesn't really give us an idea of you.
yeah,
Man, yeah,
yeah. I
you got
know,
me thinking.
right? That's how I felt. I can't even take credit because I don't remember who said it. I just remember in college someone said that because at a certain point when I got into spoken word and slam, I was writing a lot,
Yeah,
doing a lot of stuff. It was like I love your work, man, but I feel like I know you personally, but I feel like I don't know you in your work. And I'm like, wow, you just punched me in the gut, and so it just
yeah,
really got me thinking about how to really, what is it for? Like what are you writing this for? Are you writing it just to get something out, which is fine, but are you also writing it as a blueprint and a guideline? And I think that's how I approach it.
Yeah.
Not everybody maybe want to do that, but I approach it as that. And so I think the people and the writers and the artists, even like of all genres that we like and we love or that are revered, we know more about them through their music. We know Tupac loved his mama with Dear Mama. We know he also liked to get around. We know Biggie, saying
Yeah.
wanted one more chance, right? Like we know these things through the music or through the other writings, and so it gives you a glimpse. And so that's why I believe is what I try to do now with my work is give you a glimpse into who I am as well.
Man, I know you probably get asked this a lot, but like through your tenure as poet laureate,
Yeah.
did you ever have like a struggle between writing something that you really wanted to say and maybe thinking, maybe I shouldn't, or, maybe you wrote it, or maybe I shouldn't put this out here because, I'm the poet laureate and I'm supposed to be held to this standard? Or were you just like, hey, it is what it is?
Yeah, a little bit of both of those, to be honest with you. I definitely had moments where it was like topics or poems that maybe I already had or things I just wasn't. It didn't feel sometimes like um, time in like the proper time and place, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to be. Which it sounds crazy, but when I first started, I didn't want to be the Black people's poet laureate. I just wanted to be Rock Hill poet laureate.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, but also there's nothing wrong with that too, But I wanted to be a person that could everybody. So I think in the beginning I was like maybe shying away from some of those pieces that touched on that. But also I had to come to a realization and, just really back to myself, like, it's my work though. Like this is the work that got me to the position. This is the things, maybe not these specific poems, but this is a part of my body of work. And so I shouldn't be ashamed or I shouldn't feel like I can't express or, read these or write the things because of this position. Like you make the position what it is, not the position making you. So yeah. So then that's I just kind of just did my thing at that point. That's when I was like, okay, cool. I mean, either you like it or you don't, and it
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
it is. So yeah. So I think it's natural to have a little bit of that anytime you get elevation from something or position like a poet laureate, and you feel like a responsibility of sorts. Particularly if you were a poet laureate in the South, where it's more conservative,
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want your tenure to be? Do you want a tenure where you're just codifying yourself or modifying everything, or do you want a tenure where you really are being true to who you are? And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I feel like I did.
Yeah, I can tell that from your poetry. I just wondered if it was like a struggle because
Yeah, yeah,
being a Black man, especially a writer, a poet, and we go through some things and
yeah,
we write about it.
yeah,
And I can see the authenticity in your poetry, and it's just like, hey, this is me.
yeah,
And going back to Marcus with his poetry,
yeah,
hey, this is me, this is what's going on. And I like how you pointed out being in the South, because that's something you wouldn't think you would hear, in the
yeah.
South. It's just like, okay, well, maybe, we'll touch on some things here and there, but it's like, no, this is real, this is what's happening.
Right, absolutely, man. And for me too, I've always been a person very big on history and very big on legacy. And I come from a political science background. I studied that in college, and so history is a part of me, and just like looking at the world in a different way. And so I always was very much obsessed when I got the position of like, okay, what's my legacy gonna be though?
Hmm.
Like I don't. My legacy should be the words, but should also be the work behind the words. And I don't want it to be where he didn't say the unsafe things, or to feel like
Yeah.
you know people had to adjust or change who they are. Like that's not the point of what poetry and writing is anyway. So it's a lot of times I feel the responsibility bigger than me, but 20, 30 years from now, when the position exists and somebody looking in the archives or what have you, right, and they see what Angelo Jeter did with that tenure as poet laureate, but also his life and his work, what are they going to say about it? And I don't want them to feel like, oh, he didn't, I don't know anything about him, or I feel like, oh, he could have done more, or he didn't do this, or he did, that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, legacy is a big thing for me, man. So, so yeah, so that's why I kind of like some of the really tune into that.
Man, you giving me a lot to think about, man. I'm glad. This is a real good conversation, man.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, man.
Man, you got me. You got me. I have a lot to think about, man.
Yeah, it's
Just
all good, man.
yeah,
It's all good.
man. Wow. Um, uh, you serve on several boards. Watering Hole, director of campus program in Winthrop. You also a graduate of Winthrop as well,
Yeah,
right?
graduated Winthrop. Yeah, and actually, I don't work in Winthrop anymore. I just left a few months ago, but I was there for working there for about 9 years.
Yeah.
Winthrop alum as well.
What was that like leaving there?
Yeah,
You starting a lot of new chapters, man. I
yeah.
just
Listen, a
congratulations.
lot happened at once. And you see, the thing I didn't say before I get in that question about like deciding, that my time was up. A lot of new things were happening. My son was about to be born. I got a new job. Just new phase of life. Engaged. Getting married soon. Like all these new things were happening, and I felt like, okay, it's a new phase, and I feel like this is the perfect time to transition out of the role and someone to transition in, and so it is. I feel like a lot of things just fell into place. You know what I mean? Um, and so when it comes to that, to the job at Winthrop, so it was really like crazy because so what in the position of director of campus programming, I was in charge of the student activities board that planned events for the campus. So that'd be like homecoming, welcome week. We did 60, 70 events a year. For the students. And as a student, I was a student on that programming board, and I was president of it as well. And so
Yeah.
after graduating in college, and I got into higher ed as a career, and then when I felt like, oh, I think I really want to do this, and that job became available. Like my mentor had been there like 20, almost 30 years. And then he left, and then some other people got in the role, and so then it became available. I'm like, wow, that's crazy if I would be able to go back to the place that kind of started me on this journey. And so it was really like a full circle moment, and a great experience being able to be back there as a director when I was a student, also in that position, in that organization. So it was cool, man. It was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that is dope, man.
Yeah, man.
You're the second guest I've had that did something in college and ended up becoming part of like the faculty and staff.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. um Speaking of legacy,
Yeah.
you started a poetry festival. You touched on it before, the One Word Poetry Festival. Um, are we gonna be able to enjoy that again this year?
Oh, yeah.
What's the plan to look like for that?
Yeah, man, absolutely, and thank you for asking that. One of the things that I wanted to do when I became poet laureate is, I created that festival. I created the youth poet laureate positions, and I said after the first year, I'm like, okay, I think this festival is something that I want to keep with me, not from like a selfish
Hmm.
standpoint,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit, but more so, more so because I didn't want the pressure for whoever the next poet laureate to be to have to feel like they had to plan a festival, right? I come from an event planning background. I love putting things like that together, but someone else may not have that skill set, and I would hate for the festival to die off or to not continue, or somebody feel like they had to do it when that's not maybe in their wheelhouse. And so I'm like, let's just keep this kind of separate from the poet laureate position, but the poet laureate will always have, the current one will always have a seat on the committee planning. And so we're still going. So with that being said, yeah, so One Word Poetry Festival in the process of turning into what it already is recognized by the state as a nonprofit as well. If we want to make it a federal nonprofit. So what we've done for the past, this is year 5, so the past 4 years, we brought, nationally award-winning poets and regional poets as well as local poets all in one space with like live music. We have poetry slam competition, poetry readings. We had Pulitzer Prize winner Jericho Brown the very first year. We had poet laureates from across the state of South Carolina. So this year we're going to have it May 29th through the 31st, 2025 in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We have some amazing things. We do have a new poet laureate. Her name is Carlo Dawson. And we're going to have a passing the torch ceremony that's kind of going to open that festival.
Okay.
her, and then we're going to have a poetry slam and workshops and open mic with the live band and everything as well, man. So it's going to be an amazing festival for year 5, and it's crazy to say that it's year 5 to me. But yeah, please come on out, onewordpoetryfestival.com if you want to find more information, or at One Word Poetry Festival on social media platforms.
I always miss it, but I follow the social media pages
Yeah,
and stuff, and I always, you know, see these videos, and
yeah,
I'm just like, man, something always comes up. Hopefully, nothing comes
I
up this
understand.
year.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
And
get you up here this
the
year.
yeah, the list of events.
Yeah.
Now knowing your background, it makes sense why it's so well organized
Mhm.
because there's stuff to do every day, and it's not like just fluff stuff.
Yeah.
It's things that you would expect to see in a poetry festival.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, man, I hope I can make it this year.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. If not, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep it going for as long as we can. But we'd love to have you up
Yeah,
and get a chance, man, for sure.
that's good to hear that it's going to keep going
Yeah.
because and I have to applaud you for your responsibility for saying that you didn't want to leave that to the next poet laureate, because a lot of times people do stuff and they don't even think about people who's coming behind them. And a
Right.
lot all through this conversation, you've been saying things referencing the people who come behind.
Right.
And like you're very aware of that. And I applaud you for that. Because a lot of people get in positions and just they don't even think about who's coming next. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's
Yeah.
my time, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And it leaves a bad stench in the position if you
Yeah.
don't think about who's coming after you.
Absolutely.
And we see that on all levels.
Yes. Yes, we
I'm
do.
just gonna leave it there. Um, but I applaud you for doing that, man. Just being aware, like stuff like
Yeah.
that. It may seem simple to some people, but when you're talking about legacy and history, it's like these things have a trickle-in effect. And if you can
Right.
make it as smooth as possible for the people coming behind you,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing will build. Whatever you're doing will build and be even bigger. And like you said, the position is it's not about you, but it's about you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like your legacy and what you're doing afterwards. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, what big plans do you have um, now that you're poet laureate emeritus? And when that's done, what's in store, man? What's next?
Yeah, man. I think a lot of my energy is really going to focus on building the festival, up to be as big as it possibly can, and not big as in, well, as good as it possibly can. Let me not say big, but
Yeah.
as full and as great as it can be. I really have a vision where I could even potentially see like it be a traveling festival, and we go to
Oh,
different
yeah.
cities and do that. It would still like be the home base in Rock Hill, but because I do want to bring people here. But I also see where that can be something that we just go like a rolling loud, and those music festivals go to different cities. I could see like a 2 to 3 city thing where we take the One Word Poetry Festival on the road. So I would love to build that up, man. Also, and this is probably gonna be funny to hear, but I feel like now that I'm a emeritus, I'll have more time to actually write. Because you do write, but I feel like especially for me, being an event planner as well, and having a big plan mindset, I was always creating a new thing, and this event and commission poem for that or whatever, which is great. But I think now I'll be able to really just kind of have some time to curate what I want to, and then really, spend some time on the writing and really elevating that. So definitely, I feel some books, or in the future, there's some ideas and things swirling in my head around that. And so yeah, I think just elevating the craft, man. And I really eventually want to be a full time writer as well,
Oh, man, that's the
from
dream.
performing and everything, as well as I do like residencies in schools and workshops and things like that. And so, trying to put the infrastructure together to make sure that that's solid as well. So that's where I see myself right now, man. And I'm always open to new things as well. But that's what I kind of see for myself right now.
Oh, man. Well, much success to you in your
Thank you,
future
brother.
endeavors. Man, that's great.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Uh,
Appreciate that.
before I let you get out of here,
Yeah.
one question I like to ask some of my guests. What's one thing about you that a lot of people may not know that you wish more people knew?
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a good one, Terrence. One thing about me that I wish people know, but they don't know, but I wish that they knew.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. I would say one thing about me. I already mentioned singing, so that can't be it. That'd be cheating. Um, I think. I mean, I would say at heart, man, I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd at heart. You know, um, and not like in a silly way, but like I can nerd out on hip hop. Like I'm a hip hop head to the core.
Oh
I
yeah.
can nerd out on hip hop all day. I can nerd out on basketball all day. I can nerd out on um, Marvel comics to a degree. Now, some people that are way nerdier than that than me. But
Yeah,
at the end of
yeah,
the day, like
yeah.
when I really love something, I really believe in like getting to all the intricacies and deep into it. So I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd in poetry and nerd in spoken word in that way too. And I just like it's because of my love and my passion for it, man. So I'm a nerd for the things that I care about. So that's what I would say. And maybe people know that, but I think most people wouldn't probably assume that by talking to me.
Hey, man, that's good, man.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you,
Yeah.
really before I let you get out of here, one word poetry festival. Where'd you come up with the title for the poetry festival?
Oh, great, man. Great question. So, like original. So when I was coming up with the festival, um, like when I was interviewing for poet laureate position, I already had the idea, and I was trying to come up with names, and a couple names I had they were already taken. And then one day, it just kind of hit me, and I just thought of the fact that every poem starts with one word. One word is the beginning
Mm,
of everything, right? And so you can't have anything else until that first word is written. And so that's how I kind of wanted this festival to embody like that word can be create something else, which can turn to something else, and we can create more opportunities. And so it just to me that like yeah, when it hit me that day, like I think that's it. I think that's it. One word poetry festival. So yeah,
oh man, yeah, that was a great choice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. Thank
yeah,
you.
got me thinking again, man. I
Yeah.
tell you, boy. um,
Oh, brother, that's my job.
any final words? Anything you want to say? The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. I just want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for your platform and doing this and acknowledging and elevating writers. I think it's a necessary and needed thing. We talk about you mentioned legacy with me, but I think what you're doing is really setting a legacy for highlighting writers of all types, but specifically poets. I know you focus on that, but I think it's a great thing to do, and I don't think you see enough of it. So shout out to you, man, for what you're doing and keep going, man. I really appreciate all the effort and what you're putting into this, man. So kudos to you, my brother. Kudos to
Oh man, thank you. I really appreciate that.
you.
Man, yeah. Like we were talking in the pre-show, man. I just this like the last couple of most of this season I've been
Yeah,
talking to men and different writers and stuff. And the conversations have been very enlightening. I've been getting a lot of stuff from them as well. So I appreciate my guests. I appreciate you. Let the people know how they can get in contact with you, how they can book you, any other information you want to share.
sure, man. Yeah, so I have a website. It's angelojeter.com. If you want to book me for anything, there's a contact form on there. I do weddings, bar mitzvahs, all the things. Anything you can think of,
Yeah.
I would do that. Commission poems, workshops, poetry performance, of course, all that stuff. I'm also on social media at iambic, which is EYEAMBIC, EYEAMBIC. And then on Facebook, Angelo T. Jeter as well, if you want to get in touch with me. So those are the major pathways. The Rock Hill Poet Laureate page, I'm still kind of using it right now, but we will transition it to Carlo shortly. But at Rock Hill Poet as well on Facebook and Instagram. So you can see things that I've done, but also what she's going to be doing, and she posts things there as well.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you for your time, everybody. Make sure you hit Angelo up and check out all the things. Book him. Um, Drop him a note, man. Tell him
Yeah,
how much you enjoy his sport, especially if you're from Rock Hill, man.
yeah,
Let him
man.
know
Show me some
how
love,
much you enjoyed him. Yeah.
man.
Thank you again. And to all my listeners, remember, keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at thebrownsugarcafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.